here, why would I come to you?
Various reasons. You haven't received your ballot. You feel you haven't made a mistake and you'd like to have a new ballot reissued, to see if you're registered, to see if your signature matches. So there's a variety of reasons that you might come in.
Okay, and you can check that my signature right here, or?
Let's see. Some people do change their signatures over time, especially young people. So they come out of high school, they're 18, and they actually fill their name out, very carefully. By the time they're 25, they're making a loop. So I have every signature for every voter registration available to me to see that.
The first thing we do when we receive a ballot, this is a drop slot in our wall here at the Nevada County Elections Office. I pull it out and I bring it over here. I date stamp it when it was received and through this machine. I run it through, or if this one's up, I just run it through here. And it'll date stamp it as well. I put the envelope through, it goes through, the name appears on the screen here, it captures the image of the signature. Well, before this, I have to actually remove the signature flap. And then we verify that the signature is actually there, and if it's not, we'll actually put it in storage and have somebody manually check it. They'll call the voter or send them an email saying, oh hey, we got your ballot, there's no signature, can you please come in and sign it? If they don't have a phone number or an email on file, we'll send them a letter. Or it's gonna end up in this bin, and from there we put it in a red bucket, and the red bucket goes here. It's what we call signature verification. The machine only verifies probably like 20 to 30% of the actual signatures that go through, the ones that it's absolutely sure are the same signature. And then each person that does this task will actually open up the batch, which is an entire red tray on their computer, and it appears side by side with the signature of the ballot and the signature that we have on file, either from voter registration or DMV. And then they'll personally verify that they are the same signature. If it's challenged as not the same signature, it goes through 2 more sets of eyes before we ultimately call the voter and let them know that their signature doesn't match and that they need to come in and correct that.
Okay.
So once this ballot comes from a red bin, it's been verified, and it actually goes in here into a yellow bin to where we call CP. CP stands for Consolidated Precinct. It's just an easy way for us to manage how we sort the ballots. Once they end up in here, we sort them into these bins. You can see on the walls they're listed by CP, going from 1 to 68. Got quite a few already, as you can see, and then once they're there, we will take these white bins out. We'll run them through this cutting machine over here to slice one end of the ballot open so that they're ready to be processed. Okay, so once the ballot comes out of our ballot room, we go through it in teams of 2 and we verify that it's either received an endorsement from the verification machine, or if a person has actually checked a mark on the box to make sure that the signature has been verified. We put all the personal information face down in the stack, and then we will go through and pull out each individual ballot, keep the stack face down, the envelope face down, go through the ballot, check to make sure that the barcodes are okay, that there's no lines through them, there's no coffee that's been spilled on the barcode, because it'll make our scanner in a later step kick it out. And then we also verify that there's no initials on there, otherwise we would have to dupe it.
And this is one of the couple places where you have 2 people verifying.
Absolutely, yeah. And then once they're here, we take them out and we will put them in these green buckets. We have green sheets on them to say, hey, these are good to scan. Once they have been batched is what we call it and are ready for scanning, we'll actually insert the batch here. And I'm going to type in some information here to assign this batch to a space on this memory, essentially.
So the ECM key you have, in the flowchart, there's 7 places that you can use this, and so it's a 2-factor authentication consisting of a hardware key
Right.
and a passcode.
Exactly.
And when you leave a machine, you pull the key
We pull
out,
the
and
key
that aborts any data entry or.
Yep, exactly. So we can't actually tally or enter any scanned information unless we have this key in. I just insert it over here. And then the system will recognize that so that when I go to try and scan something, it'll ask for a password. And then once it has those 2 things, then it's going to say I'm good to go.
And resolve, you got a screen.
Safe mode. How many scanners are there?
There are 2 scanners, batch scanners in Nevada County.
2 scanners in Nevada County, and so those are the only 2.
Yes.
Ah.
Well, we named them Scanner 1 and 2.
B.
So if you're running these machines and a problem occurs, who are you going to call?
We call Harding Civic, who actually we bought the equipment from, and we have a troubleshooting line to call to get answers on what we need to do. We do have a manual, but it's quicker just to call Texas, and they're available for us 24
Right.
hours a day.
Right. And this equipment is all from circa 2007.
We purchased it in 2000. We took possession of it in 2007, and it is aging out after this November election. We will be doing an RFP going forward for new equipment, and anytime, well, right after the election, we will start that process.
Interesting.
These?
Yeah.
These are the ones that have to be duplicated.
Ah.
If there's something on the barcode, like coffee or gum or food, whatever it is, it needs to be duplicated because when it goes through our scanners, it'll gunk it up and we'll have to have somebody come in and service it. And we don't want that. It costs money and time. So we actually have to take each ballot. One person reads the contests on the ballot. The other partner they're with will actually mark those marks. And then once they're done, they swap. And then that person will read the marks that were marked, and then the person verifies that those marks are correct.
So these machines, since we've purchased them, the county, they've cost the county $83,000 a year for their service contract, and they're only used every 2 years.
Every other year,
Every other year.
unless there's a special election.
And most of the time, these things reside in a warehouse somewhere.
These are always here.
These are always here. Okay, so everything that's in this room stays here,
Correct.
and it's only the ones that I used to use out in the polling places that get warehoused someplace.
Correct.
And so they've been cut out of the machine, and the signature's been verified.
They've been removed from the envelopes, and then they've made it here into this bucket. And then I just do this to make sure they're all kind of in the same space. Pull this out. Then I just key in some information about this batch.
Does that information come off the green sheet on the top?
Yep.
Okay.
So I have a CP here, which came from, these have to stay in CPs that they came from, just because that's how we sort everything. And then the CPs are determined based on the ballot type, which is determined off of what contests are on the ballot, what district they're in. So they have to be kept in order, else things just wouldn't work. And then I press start scan. Once this is scanned, it'll give me an error and it'll tell me which pages have been rejected. If there's something in the barcodes, if there is something in the barcodes, we have to remove that. That's when we do the duping process, and then we'll be able to run the batch through without any errors.
So one can make the entire batch get rerun?
Well, one we actually just pull and put in those envelopes,
Oh.
and we'll just rerun it without
Rescan.
that.
And we have to rescan it.
But we do have to rescan it if there's been one rejected.
Does that show any errors?
No. So what I'm gonna do is go save, and then I'm gonna attach this clip back, and then I'm gonna write the information down, what station I'm at, either 1 or 2, and then I'm gonna initial it. I'm gonna put the number of cards that were accepted by the scanner, the number that came up earlier. I'm gonna put today's date, and then the time, and then any comments. I'm just gonna put in that it's batch 2, and then from there it goes into the blue bucket, and the blue bucket signals that it's ready to be resolved. So I'm gonna take it out of the blue bucket and go into resolve. It's scanned once,
Uh-huh.
and then it gets run through by a human during the resolution
Got it.
process.
Okay.
So, start resolve. Oops. Okay, so here, this is batch 2. This is the batch we just did. And this is one isn't a good example because there weren't any overvotes or write-ins. But in the event that there is an overvote or a write-in, it'll be either a dark orange or a yellow, and it'll pop up and it'll ask you to resolve it before it can actually be saved into this memory card here. So I would just go through and I would uncheck and make sure, like, if they've written no next to a box and both boxes are filled in, we know not to count that box, so we know which to assign their vote to, basically. So we just do that all in here, and the machine will flag it for us. If there's nothing voted or there's the appropriate number of votes voted, then it's not something we even see.
So sloppy voting really adds to your
Yep,
workload.
that's correct.
And if they use write-ins, they start getting funny and put in Donald Duck or
Yep.
Mickey Mouse because they don't want to vote for
That
anybody
really
on the
adds a
ballot.
lot of work.
It
There's
makes
a
a
lot
lot
of
of work
Mickey
in the county.
Mouses.
Okay. Okay.
So once this batch has been resolved, we'll just put it in one of these red buckets. This red bucket indicates that it's ready to go into storage. So we take it out, and then we'll put it in one of those white boxes up at the very top there. And then once they're in there, we'll seal them. And so in here, this is basically like this storage of all the ballots after their signatures have been verified. We typically keep things on carts during business hours outside, and then we'll roll them in at night after it gets locked up. The ballots that came in from the post office we'll leave out here until we run them through the signature verification machine. And then at that point they get put in red buckets, and then the red buckets come into yellow buckets, which get stored in here. This is when it'd be a batch just like this. We open the ballots. We don't open the ballots. We pull the ballots up. We look at their CPs on there, their numbers. I don't want to show it, but there's a CP number right here. Somebody looks at the CP number and then they assign the correct stack, basically, that they go into.
And that's your job, the CP is distribution.
Yeah, the CP, the ripping, that's what goes on in here.
Okay.
So if we walk in a room, Christian and I or any of us full-timers walk in a room and we see these colored buckets in people's possessions, we know what stages they're in. We know what stage the ballot process is in. They're very helpful. Same with...
So this is the tally room. Once we've got all of the ballots scanned, we just take the MBBs, the memory cards, out of the scanners. 2 people have to be doing this. It's all sealed from point A to point B. We have to sign the door every time we enter and put the time that we were in there. And then we'll take the MBB and we will insert it into a computer that's not connected to the internet. When it's connected, when this is tallied on that computer, we will print out a report. We'll move basically the data that gets tallied to another computer that is connected to the California Secretary of State's network. And then at that point, we have two different sets of information from the two computers just to verify that there was no information lost from transferring from one computer to another. We'll print out a report and we have one person read the report and the other person is reading their other report from the other computer, and then they'll read aloud the numbers and then the other person will verify that the numbers are correct. If not, we'll stop and then we switch and then double it up that way.
And that's the enormous PDF.
That's the enormous PDF essentially that we read aloud and verify is correct. On the Nevada County Elections website, we have a link where voters can go and see on the Secretary of State's website if their ballot has been cast and voted.
So when the election is over, everything is put away and all our ballots go where?
All the ballots are boxed, sealed and boxed and taken up to our warehouse at Loma Rica. And we have a vault there that it is stored. Federal elections, it is a 22-month hold. Nothing can happen to any of that information for 22 months. After 20 months, we schedule a shred. If they're local elections or small district elections, 6 months is the hold.
Okay. So one of those big trucks drives up there and...
Shreds on site, correct.
Okay. And then you have a lot of fire start.
We usually have 2 elections at all time at the warehouse.
Oh.
And then